Well, hey, I thought I'd go through Who's song Music Must Change from the Who Are You album. It's an unusual song because of basically the extent to which the guitar is in the background for so much of the song. Between the horn section and the keyboard parts, there are places where you can barely hear what the guitar is doing, especially on the studio version. On the studio version, there are lots of licks thrown in uh, of the guitar, but it's hard at times to keep track. It's also confusing because the parts that the guitarist that Pete's playing are mirrored by the horn section, but an octave higher at least, which makes it hard at times to hear what's going on. So I'm going to focus more on the live versions because there you can get a better sense of Pete's contribution. It's going to be sparse, partly for his performance sake with the windmills that he throws in. We're going to get single chords, or just single strumming of chords, with the room left for the keyboards. Rabbit was the one that played with him through those periods when this song was getting lots of play, and in the late 70s. And then the horn section as well. Between those two, the guitar parts, they're hard to track. But if you work through it and hear what's going on, I think you end up with something interesting. So I'm going to focus on that, go through the different pieces, and then we'll put them together and see what we get. So I'll do a run through of basically the verse, and then we'll come back and we'll break it and the other pieces down. So the opening riff, and the one that continues throughout the song, in the live versions, you really have choices. Sometimes Pete plays it just simply as a variation on a D chord. We're going to leave the 3 out, as he often does. So we're going to try to basically mute that F sharp. Simple version that he uses sometimes is just simply a essentially just moving from a D down to the C. Other times he's doing something a little bit more complicated, closer to what's on the record. So again, it's a C to the D, where the tonal center again is on the C and the D. But this time we've got an F pulled off to a D. Then we're going to move to, it's going to be a variation, I guess, of a B flat. But instead of a B flat, we're going to fret it by keeping the D, let the G string ring, open G, get the B flat in there, and essentially just mute the 4th string. So a three note chord. And then slide up. Think of it as a C major 7th, but leave the D on there as well, whether you really play it or not. And then we get to what's really sort of offbeat, F, E flat, B flat. So if this is D, so E flat, and then the way I do it is G minor, and F, basically just mute the first string again. Then an E flat major 7th fretted this way. Bar these 3 strings, and then get the D sharp, or the E flat up here, to an A 7th fretted here. Now in the live versions, what he's doing is he's doing windmills through these chords. So just 1 strike on each. Music must change. Then we get to he's chewing a bone. So our D, keeping that F sharp muted. D minor, E minor, F, G, A, B minor 7th, D, A, D. So the whole sequence again is going to go. And then we're going to repeat that again. Time in the wind. Push the mountains as whole as the earth. The music must change. Change. And then after the first verse, we're going to get a little solo. And we'll come back to the structure bit, but basically, and we go back to repeating that verse pattern again. Then the next time after you go through that cycle, we're going to get, I guess what we'll call it the bridge, where Townsend comes in singing. So we just start with a simple D, G, A, and then we're going to get and sometimes he just leaves the D ringing, just to basically continue that D note that's hanging out throughout the whole song, or most of the song. Sometimes he actually leaves it on the G. The song's so different. Have I been it all again? Now in the live versions, he tends to go longer on that little stretch than he does on the recording, not being in the best, shall we say, physical shape. He sometimes wasn't consistent in what he was playing. Sometimes he ends that transition. He goes to this little move from essentially off of an A up to a D. Louder and louder as the tension builds. Till Daltrey screams, "Change!" At which point Rabbit would come in, keyboardist would come in and start doing a keyboard solo using whatever it is you would call it on the keyboard, the tremolo type switch that he's got. What Townsend will do over that part is just play some chords. Just think about basically just barring everything at the 10th. If you barred them all, those are basically the notes that would make up the D minor. We're going to get the extra D in there and pull off to the C, just as we were doing earlier in our basic riff. And sometimes he will throw in the F sharp. And that's all under the long solo that Rabbit will do. Now, when it comes to the soloing that Townsend does, he's going to work essentially off of the D minor pentatonic. But like so many guitarists, he's going to find his own way of embellishing it. Lots of guitarists use that scale as a basis and then they add to it. So for instance, instead of going from the 1 to the flat 3, the 4, the 5, the flat 7th, and then the octave, some guitarists will make use of the 2 as well. What Townsend will often do is he'll make use of what is actually the 6th in the scale. So if you think about a D major scale, the 6, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 is B. He's going to use that B in that scale. So when it comes to the D minor pentatonic, he's going to use the B. And the solo that he often starts with essentially starts with a C, just continuing the scale but moving up higher. One of the licks that he likes to use is throwing in a G, bending it, ending down on the D. Something else he uses sometimes in the verses themselves is he'll throw in little licks. So a little bend off of the G again, ending on the D. So basically the D is going to show up again and again in this song as one of the focal notes in the soloing, as well as the C, which is what we'd expect, given what we were doing before. And that's really the gist of the song. Now, as I said, the way I was playing it was following the live versions, which leaves lots of space. If it's something you're going to be playing on your own, you want to try to find, obviously, ways to fill in some of those gaps. But I'll leave it up to you now that you got the basic structure. And if you're fortunate enough to have a band that you can play along with, then you can help yourself to that more sparser approach that he takes. All right, so hope it was some use. Take it easy.